East Midlands, Leicester. A vibrant city known for its rich cultural diversity, historic landmarks, and bustling city centre. Which was the home to 46-year-old Kiran Daudia and her ex-husband, 51-year-old Ashwin. Back in 1988, the pair had an arranged marriage in India and went on to have two sons, Vivek and Shivam. Vivek moved to Sheffield for work and Shivam lived at home as he was still in school. The couple had many issues in the relationship and after 26 years of marriage decided to get a divorce. However, they agreed to live under the same roof while they worked on selling their house. For 17 years, Kiran had worked at Next Call Center and saw work like a second home and her colleagues were like family. Ashwin worked long hours, operating machines in a factory. Kiran was described as outgoing, intelligent and had a love for makeup and fashion. Her son said she was caring and gentle but definitely the backbone of the family. Fast forward a few years of trying to sell their home, Kiran's sister offered to purchase the property. Several months later, the moving dates were set. The plan was for Kiran to stay a while longer, and for Ashwin to move out mid-January. January 16, 2016. Shivam got up and got ready for school as normal. It seemed as though Kiran had left early for work as he would normally have breakfast with her. A short while before 2:30 in the afternoon, Kiran arrived home. Around 3:30, Shivam arrived home from school, but was surprised his mum wasn't at home. Due to it being the winter season, the dark began to set in. Around 6:30 p.m. Vivek received a call from his grandmother, to see if he had heard from Kiran. But he hadn't. Worry and concern began to set in. Vivek immediately made his way back to Leicester. It was also his birthday the next day, which they would normally celebrate together. And it was strange for Kiran not to answer or return calls and messages. Shivam used the Find My app, in an attempt to track down a location. They found it. A short 5 minutes away from their home. But it didn't show much. The family wasted no time as their cause for concern grew. And they dialed 999 and reported her missing. As usual, the police logged it and were set to make inquiries the next morning. But, the next day the police received a call from a neighbor of the family. Nearby the bins was an alleyway and backyards, where oddly there was a suitcase which had suddenly appeared overnight. It was very heavy. Which led to the neighbor looking inside. It was a body of a female. Quickly matching the missing person report and the connection was made in a short period of time. The body was of Kiran Daudia. Disturbingly, Kiran's hands and feet were tied with plastic cables and her head was covered with a bin liner. Torn pieces of latex gloves were found in the suitcase which were sent for testing. Police called Vivek to give him the heart-aching task of identifying the body. After this, detectives sat down with the two boys, who had some stories to share. Leading investigators to one suspect. Kiran's family told police that after Ashwin had been told he needed to leave the property by mid-January, he acted as if it wasn't happening and refused to pack or find a new place to live. The two boys mentioned since they was young they had been subjected to amounts of abuse from their father. When Vivek was 13, his father tried to burn him with an iron and would often hit them with items lying around. He would also physically and verbally abuse Kiran. As the years went on, the abuse got worse and the boys would often get in between to protect their mother from being hurt. Eventually, Ashwin stopped giving money towards the bills, meaning Kiran had to work even harder. On top of this, Ashwin had started drinking heavily, causing him to lose his temper more often. Kiran had also recently joined a dating app and told everyone the divorce was long over. She was excited to meet someone new. Shivam remembered his mother laughing and saying to him, "What if he ends up killing me?" As Shivam gave the police a rundown of the relationship, it became more clear Ashwin was the only person who blatantly showed enough hatred towards Kiran to do something like that to her. Shivam said that as soon as he came home and noticed his mother wasn't present, and wasn't answering his calls, he asked his father, "What have you done? I know you've done something to her." He went on to say his father just stared and shrugged his shoulders and couldn't give a straight answer. January 16, 2016. Around 6:20 p.m., 2 cameras on a neighboring street pick up some disturbing footage. The suitcase which had Kiran's body in, was being dragged along, and although he had tried covering his identity, police were able to determine the person to be Kiran Daudia. 2 days after the murder, and the suitcase being found, Kiran was under arrest. Police quickly began to piece together the events of that evening. Within minutes of Kiran walking through the door, an argument broke out with Kiran shouting at him as he hadn't packed anything and he was supposed to leave that day. Not long after the argument, it became physical. Kiran stated he lost control and hit Kiran over the head multiple times before strangling her with her own scarf. Following this, he forced the body into a suitcase and dragged it outside so he could clear up the blood and mess inside. And then waited for Shivam to arrive home at 3:30. When Shivam was out searching for his mother after 6 p.m., Kiran quickly grabbed the suitcase and dragged it out into the street before hurrying home around half an hour later. Kiran got rid of her phone, which was located on the roof of a business nearby. He also placed all cleaning materials and her bloody clothes into another suitcase which was never found. The latex gloves found in the suitcase with the body was tested and his DNA was found as suspected. At this point he was already charged with the murder. At Leicester Crown Court, almost a year after the murder, the trial began. Shivam and Vivek both testified and painted an unhappy and angry home, solely caused by their father. Vivek was asked, "Did you like him? Not the abusive parts?" and he replied no. He couldn't think of one thing his whole life that his father had done that was nice. The prosecution said that when you combine all the evidence together, the CCTV, DNA from the latex gloves and his prior history of abuse, it is hard to believe that the defendant not knowing or having anything to do with it is true. It was clear that they were just lies. The defense team were pushing for the manslaughter charge and claimed it was self-defense. And went on to say he was being bullied by the family including his sons and was forced to defend himself when Kiran arrived home that afternoon. Kiran's family said it was nonsense and it was not in Kiran's nature to have instigated anything and lived in a state of fear most of the time. Few hours of deliberation and the jury found him guilty of the murder. He was given a life sentence with a minimum term of 18 years.
Kiran's family have released the following statement. Kiran was full of life, with a vibrant personality, a loving, caring mother with a very thoughtful daughter, sister and aunt. Her friendly and charismatic nature meant she had many friends. She was simply beautiful and loved having photographs taken. She was the backbone of the family, very kind, generous and angelic. We as a family cannot even begin to describe the loss and emptiness in our heart. Her perpetual smile will be missed every day of our lives by everyone who knew her. Kiran had lots of dreams and aspirations which were untimely taken away by this demonic act. Life without her will never be the same. We cannot thank enough for the support given to us throughout this difficult time, and we would like to especially thank East Midlands Special Operations Major Crime Unit, including Senior Investigating Officer D.I. Simon Shuttleworth, Officer in the case DS Mark Wesley, and DC Jenny Tattersall, our Family Liaison Officer, Leicestershire Police and the Crown Prosecution Service. They have all worked tirelessly to bring this evil person to justice. He showed no remorse in coming forward and taking responsibility for his barbaric actions. We would also like to thank Victim Support, Next Directory and our own employers, Queen Elizabeth College, Sri Hindu Temple, Asian Funeral Service, our family, friends, neighbours and the public for their continuous support throughout this ordeal. We would also like to thank all of those who provided CCTV to the inquiry. Although today there has been justice for Kiran, this does not take away our heartache. Her energy will resonate with us forever. We will be living this sentence for the rest of our lives.